Hi South Africa, welcome back to View of Two. We're doing another one of our What's Up videos where we kind of ask each other questions across the divide of things we just wanted to know. And so Hiram wanted to ask me a question and he didn't want to tell me what it was going to be about.
So when I was serving a mission for my church, we lived in townships throughout the Cape area.
Lived in them?
Yeah, well, we lived in the area of them where we had proselyte in them.
Okay.
Guguletu and Zwelicha and Bishu up in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
There's a few other ones that evade me right now, but and what I noticed was quite a few people had really snazzy cars and dressed in really good clothing and had good equipment in their homes, but their homes were dilapidated or run down. And I just was very confused as to why that was the case. What's going on with do these people not care for their homes? Do they not want to live in a nice home, or what was the? I can see you a bit triggered. So
yeah, a little bit triggered.
It's just coming from a
what's up? It's a what's up.
Yeah, it's an uninformed point of view. Maybe you can fill me in on what it was.
Yeah, it's an incredibly sensitive subject, but just so that I'm clear, when were you serving your mission? Which would
end of 92 to end of 1992 to end of 1994. So
okay.
It was just before. It was during the elections for democratic government.
It wasn't during the elections. The elections happened in 94.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I left in end of 94.
Oh, okay.
So it was around that time.
But it was South Africa wasn't a republic, a democratic republic, so to speak, at the time. Yeah. So we were still living technically under the system of apartheid. And I think in the Eastern Cape there was definitely a homeland.
Yeah.
And so you were serving in what would be considered homeland areas.
Yeah. Some of them.
Yeah. So, well, especially it would seem I don't know, but I know one of the things my mom used to say, and this was a trigger for her, so maybe that's why it's a trigger for me, because we weren't talking about what's up with the dudes, do they care about their homes or not, but it was a question of, I'm just saying between my mom and I, she would always lament the fact that black people never had the opportunity to truly express themselves. One of those things where you couldn't move. I mean, this is an apartheid fact. We all know this. As a black person, you couldn't move as freely as you wanted to in your own home country. You also couldn't live where you wanted to. But not only that, you couldn't do what you wanted to do in your home.
What do you mean?
Right? So,
so you couldn't go to the bathroom or...
Really? Wow, really? I'm talking about...
You're talking about like any sort of cosmetic changes to...
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of the areas you were in, and I'm trying to set them or think of them in as far as KwaZulu-Natal is concerned, right? Because I've never been there.
Yeah.
And in areas like Chesterville, where you had those train government homes that people were forced to move into, you couldn't build a double-story home. You couldn't improve on the homes that government had forced you to live on. And so with the money that you had, you were almost forced to buy luxury goods.
You spend your money on what you drove and what you wore instead of how you lived.
Yeah, because that's what the government basically forced you to doing, because you couldn't do what you wanted to do. And so that is a very, very painful history for a lot of people. However, if we're being honest,
so I wasn't aware that
I wasn't finished.
Sorry, no, I wasn't aware that there was a sort of a moratorium or a forced amendment.
According to my mom, in certain areas,
to actually do anything to the property. It was government home.
It was well, it wasn't really your home, right? You had been moved into those areas, and that's according to my mom's explanation.
Yeah.
So that if you have a better explanation, then please feel free to share it with us. And the other thing is, if I'm also honest, drip is forever, as we like to say.
What?
The drip is forever.
What is that?
Drip is forever is how you look.
Oh.
So how you look is...
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Drip is forever. Where does drip come from? And so the honest truth is, as black people, generally speaking, we like to look good.
Yeah.
And we like to flash as far as style is concerned. So there could be a little bit of that as well.
Okay.
And I don't know if the word drip can be extended to...
Drip and drab.
Wow. I don't know if the word drip can be extended to the car you drive, but it certainly is a status thing. And although perhaps during apartheid we can explain it in that way, if I'm going to be honest, we still, as black people, talk about how young people like to spend money on cars as well, flashy cars that they might not be able to afford. They like to overextend themselves as far as debt is concerned. But
that's the thing with South Africans, is we are emotional buyers. So, like for example, a mate of mine in Australia said you won't see half the number of big German vehicles in Australia as you do here, because we're emotional buyers. We like to buy almost above what we need or what we can afford.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Zah, says she wishes that middle class people would realize there is no middle class in South Africa. There's dead class.
Yeah.
So
and
perhaps
it's been exacerbated, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe white South Africa, if you were honest, how many of you have big flashy cars that technically you don't own, and are living in homes that technically you don't own? Do you get what I'm trying to equalize it and say what's up with that? But as far as that question is concerned, there is a hurtful past that people could maybe afford these things and would have loved to have moved to affluent areas, but they weren't allowed to. Also, it was very difficult to, I think, for most black people to be able to improve on their homes. You know, they didn't have subsidies and all the other support, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, I didn't have subsidies.
Dude, I don't think you had a home back in the 80s when you were serving a mission. I'm talking about those people who...
No, but I mean, white people didn't have subsidies.
So no white people.
Certain government working, like the railways people would get those railway homes. There were quite a few of them in the area I lived in.
Yeah.
Teachers would get subsidies.
Yeah, so teachers...
So it was only for many governments.
Yeah, so and I'm also thinking the people who would have been able to afford German cars, so to speak, would be people who were working for the government amongst the black area, unless it was business people, in which case that's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
But for those, generally speaking, I could be wrong again, South Africa, those people didn't get subsidies until much later, and so it was very difficult for them to improve their homes as well. So I think those are all the explanations. What I'd like to know from this topic, you know, how many of us are living in debt? I think that would be a really good question.
Everyone.
Well, not everyone.
Everyone's living in some kind of debt.
Oppenheimer ain't living in no debt.
Remember, when you own your house, government owns the land, you pay your rates.
Yeah, but I'm being
never out of it.
No. Let's be honest here.
You're indebted to them because their debt for the government's so high that they've got to clean it out of us.
Yeah, but I am saying, how many of us don't even own the house, let alone the land? Let's be real, South Africa. How many of us don't own our homes? How many of us don't own our cars? How many of us can't really afford our kids' education, and yet we want to do it for status purposes?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a really good conversation.
Rethink the way you educate your kids.
Rethink the area you live in. You know, are we living in...
No, you can't do that.
Are we living in areas we can and can't afford, and how honest are we about that? So, well, thank you for this one. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, South Africa.
Cheers. Bye.